justifying child marriage in the name of Allah?
As a Muslim, I struggle to understand why the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ married Aisha when she was only 9 years old. Even knowing that girls matured earlier back then, it still feels wrong to me. How can I make sense of this, as it raised a lot of doubts in me as Muslim? First of all, I'd like to refer to the point that some people do their best to deny that Aisha radiallahu anha was married at 9. They ignore authentic hadith that have been agreed upon and that she narrated herself. And they rely on weak speculations of her getting married at 12 or 19 just to make Islam seem more acceptable to the modern minds. They are trying to make our religion appealing to others. But Islam is not about changing the truth. It's about submitting to the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even if it looked bad or evil to you. As Muslims, we should never be ashamed of our history. Instead, we trust that whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed through His Prophet was the best, even if the whole world sees it differently, even if it doesn't make sense to you. And to try to think deeply of our religion and the stories in the Quran revealed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Himself to teach us the true meaning of submission. Like the story of the Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, who was commanded to slaughter his own son. He didn't question, he didn't argue. He just trusted and submitted. And just before the knife fell, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala replaced the boy with a sheep. And also Maryam alayhi salam, she gave birth to a child without ever being touched by a man. And the story of Al-Khidr and the child he killed. When the Prophet Musa alayhi salam saw Al-Khidr kill a young boy, and Musa got very shocked and angry, but later Al-Khidr explained the wisdom behind it. When he said, as for the boy, his parents were believers, and we feared he would burden them with arrogance and disbelief. So we intended their Lord would replace him with someone better. Taking a child's life seemed cruel, yes, but in the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it was pure mercy for his parents. Do you know what the real issue is? It's that we try to use pure logic to understand things that are based on faith and submission. But not everything in Islam is meant to make sense. The role of a Muslim is not to question, but to submit, trust, and surrender to the one who knows what we don't know.
She just admitted the truth that most try to hide. Muhammad married a child. She was 6, consummated at 9. And instead of condemning it, she calls it submission. That's not holiness. That's deception dressed as devotion. And to approve the killing of a boy because his parents were believers? When your religion requires you to silence your conscience, to remain faithful, that's not submission, that's slavery. Islam calls it obedience, the Bible calls it blindness. And at the moment you start defending sin by calling it the will of God, you made your God look more like a tyrant than a father. Christianity isn't about some blind submission, it's about transformation. We don't serve a God who demands unquestioning loyalty to injustice. We serve a Savior who gave himself up for righteousness. The truth isn't afraid of questions. Jesus doesn't silence your mind, he awakens it. Share this message and stand with me as we call this generation out of deception and into the truth.